It's week 4 in the fantasy football season, and it's time to make those crucial lineup decisions. Michael Fabiano, a seasoned fantasy football analyst, is here to give you the ultimate guide on which wide receivers to start and which to sit. Let's jump right in. The stardom section kicks off with Chris Godwin facing the Eagles in a primetime matchup. Godwin has been on fire, averaging 21.4 fantasy points with 25 targets and 21 catches over the first 3 weeks. The Eagles' defense has allowed the second most fantasy points to slot receivers this season, making Godwin a must-start. Next up is DJ Moore against the Rams. Moore had a solid 15.2-point performance last week and will face a Rams defense that's been generous to wideouts, especially after allowing more than 40 fantasy points to Jauan Jennings recently. Moore is a safe bet for this week. George Pickens also makes the cut, despite averaging just 9.7 points so far. He faces the Colts, a defense that's allowed 3 wideouts to score 17-plus points this season. Pickens could be a nice flex option. Jaxon Smith-Njigba will look to capitalize on his matchup against the Lions. Detroit's defense has given up the third most fantasy points to slot receivers, and Smith-Njigba, who spends a lot of time on the inside, should find success. Last but not least, Khalil Shakir is another strong option, facing the Ravens. Baltimore has given up the 5th most fantasy points to wide receivers, making Shakir a fine flex option. On the sit-'em side of things, Jaylen Waddle tops the list. With QB Tua Tagovailoa out due to a concussion, and backup Skylar Thompson also hurt, the Dolphins are down to journeyman Tim Boyle. The Titans have also been tough on perimeter receivers, making Waddle a risky start. Michael Pittman Jr. is another sit. He's only averaging 6.6 points, largely due to Anthony Richardson's poor performance. Facing a strong Steelers defense, Pittman should remain benched. Diontae Johnson had a great game last week, but faces a Bengals defense that's allowed the 9th fewest points to wideouts. Given his inconsistencies, he's better left on the sidelines. Courtland Sutton, despite a strong last game, faces the Jets and CB Sauce Gardner, making him a tough start. Finally, DeAndre Hopkins, who woke up last week with a big game, faces a low-scoring matchup against the Dolphins, making him a risky play. Remember to check Fabiano's daily updated player rankings for your final decisions, and tune in to the Fantasy Dirt podcast with Lindsay Rhodes and Michael Fabiano for all your fantasy football needs.